but it kind of sucks as creators because the attention span is like 3 seconds now. You know,
it's half a second. It's like someone would be like, you would have gone viral, but you took a breath at the beginning. I'm like, what? We come from the time where things were 2 minutes and then they became 6 seconds. And it's funny because now TikTok's going back to long form and horizontal. It's like
funny how.
Come here, though. Yeah, he's crazy, see? Who are you?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
how's the baby?
I'm so fucking tired. She's great. She's great. She's just been giving us a run for our money. No surprise. But just the last like week in particular, it's been shitty.
How long has it been? How old is she?
She's 6 months.
6 months. I was just gonna say every 6 months it changes.
Oh, great.
As soon as you get used to something, it'll change.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, I've definitely noticed that.
And the terrible twos thing it's not really real. I mean, that's
yeah.
I mean, that's kid dependent, you know what I mean? But like it's not terrible. I think it's just the shift again. It happens, you know what I mean? So it's like
yeah. I mean, she was like really great for I don't even know, like 3 weeks, it felt like, where it was just, oh my God, she is just the best. She's sleeping through the night. This is amazing. And then now she'll like wake up, we'll put her down like at 7:38 and she'll wake up at 11. And then like, but here's the thing. I don't know if this happened to you, but it's, she doesn't like wake up. I'm up, guys. And then start crying. She wakes up screaming bloody murder, like someone's strangling her. It's the most terrifying, like jump you're awake that I've ever experienced in my life. Where like I get up and like grab my weapon next to me, like that's how terrifying it is.
right.
And then she'll go back to sleep. We have to rock her to sleep, and then she'll wake up again at like 3. My wife will nurse her for a little bit, and then she'll wake up again at 6. And now she just stays up. So now I just get up and take that shift. The pros outweigh the cons. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Having a kid, from what I've seen so far, it's just 1s and 10s.
Yeah.
You know, like there's no like 5s. Meaning like it's either you look at her or him, whatever kid you have or whatever they're feeling that day, apparently for some parents. But you look at that baby and you're like, this is the greatest thing we've ever done. I can't believe how lucky we are. It's like a 10. You're on cloud 9. Or cloud 10 in this instance. It's the greatest thing ever. Or it's I cannot believe we made this stupid decision to have a kid. This is the worst thing. There's no in between. It's just 1s and 10s all day. It's mostly 10s, which is good.
That's forever, by the way.
Yeah, I figured so. Yeah, I was telling that to a buddy of mine. He's got 2 under 2. And he's like, yeah, dude, it doesn't get any better. It's as the days go on, you have the same feeling for the next 18 years. I was like, oh, great. Okay. So,
yeah, totally.
But it's good. How are things over there? Up there?
Everything's good. Everything's good. It's always something, but
yeah, you still doing the road? You still doing some stand up and stuff? Where you can?
No, I don't really. I did some. We were at Podfest and we did a show, and I did a 7-minute set there in front of a lot of people. It was great, but it's one of those things where it's like, the podcast takes up so much time. Everything takes up time, so it's a lot of time and not a lot of money. So at least not for me.
Yeah. I mean, because it's like anything, you're gonna have to do it constantly. You're gonna have to get on stage all the time to get better and work on material. And it's just, I would imagine it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm good. I mean, if I get on stage, I can just rock out what I do. And but if I'm working a weekend, it like kills the whole weekend. You know what I mean? It's like, it's weird how you got to prepare your body to be on stage in front of someone. It's just a mental thing. It's like your body's like, I can't believe you're going to do this. Can't believe you're fucking going to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's an interesting thing, Here we're just recording to us. There you're literally live in front of could be hundreds of people.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I've spoken numerous times in front of large crowds. One in particular was like 700 something people. But more notably, it was just a lot of like 50 to 80 people was the crowd, especially when I was in marketing. I would just speak on a lot of, different things. It is weird how your body, because I was doing the podcast at that point for like 2-3 years, and it's weird how your body knows, like the day of. It's like, it's totally different. Like I remember a couple times, this big one where I was speaking in front of like 700 something people. I knew like the morning of, they told me, because someone canceled and they're like, hey, we need you to speak on this topic. Can you do it? I was like, yeah. I was like, you got the deck and everything? Yeah. Okay. So right there was 5 hours to prepare, which I'm reading off a teleprompter, of course, but it's one of those things where your body just gets into this mode. It's this weird, the palms start getting sweaty, your mind's racing, you get the bubble guts a little bit, at least I do. And it's this weird like thing that your body goes through. It's almost like preparing. It's almost like you feel like back in the Roman days where they're like, okay, here's a spear. You need to go get your meal. There's this like ancestral type of thing that goes on, I feel like, when you go in front of these people. And when you get done, I would imagine the same thing as like killing that saber-toothed tiger. It's that like rush that you get. And it's like, I could go for like another 2 hours. You don't want to, but your body's on the adrenaline high,
Let me say, I didn't realize you were recording.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten up to change that thing if I had known that. Like I can't eat before a show. So like I have to eat early on a day I'm going to do a show.
Yeah.
I can eat, if there's 2 shows, I can eat in between the show. That's fine.
Sure.
But if I eat before, it'll go through me like no one's business.
Yeah.
And
you don't want to be on stage.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's like the greatest thing. Like when you're doing stand-up comedy, it's like, oh, thing ever. I want to do this all the time, except, you got to think, it's like you're doing a show at 7:30 at night, the whole day. You're like, well, you got the whole day. It's like, well, like you said, like we were just talking about, it's like, well, your body knows something's coming up. It's different, and I think it's even more different, I think, than just giving a normal speech. There's 2, I think, pieces to doing stand-up comedy that is more stressful than just giving a speech. When you're giving a speech, there's no necessarily expectation of an immediate response during the speech, right? So silence doesn't mean anything bad. In stand-up comedy, silence can mean you're failing miserably, right? Or other noises that will be made, or comments that will be made, because people feel they have a right to do that.
Yeah.
If something's not going right. So it's much more of a battle situation when you're doing stand-up comedy, which is just, here's my PowerPoint, and marketing is something you should, and you will here's an upsell, and you can see that the customers will triple your ROI and your ROAS, and this will help your EBITDA. And everyone's like, EBITDA, yeah, help my EBITDA. And I was like, all right, so, and then, at the end, they're like, that was great. What you said about ROAS, yeah. And like, but it's like, it's different. It's like, they have no idea.
And by the way, may I say, the presentation on marketing you did just now is spot on to what
I used to joke, I won't say where, but like we'd do a corporate presentation, and I go, and I'd say, this is what the presentation's going to be: up arrow, up arrow. Yeah, that's it. I mean, they just want to, like, let's go, team.
Yeah,
I look at how up this thing. I can only mean good things ahead.
Yeah, dude, especially when I was like, when I was working at Monster, it was so cookie cutter, the presentations. And, every quarter we would have to, every quarter there was a big meeting. And then, well, for them it was trimester, so they would do every 4 months. But like it was always this big, like, okay, so here's what happened. Like there was a structure to it. It was like, here's what happened last quarter. Here's what we're going to do to make up the numbers. Here's what the numbers are. Here's what they can be. Here's the profit margin. Like it's the same every fucking quarter, right?
Right.
And it's like, okay, so let's do an annual one. So we also did an annual one on top of that, and that's the same thing. It's like, okay, what we did and what we should do and what we could do, and it's always the same with every single company. It's so fucking funny when it comes to these presentations, which is another reason why I love podcasting. I think we've talked about this before, where it's like, depending on how you do your structure of your show, of course, there might be a script or maybe some bullet points that you put together. But me, I like to kind of go off the cuff and just talk about whatever. But that's why I love consuming podcasts, is because the conversation can go a lot of different ways, and you could learn something or you could not. You can laugh, you could cry. There's so many cool things that could happen during a conversation, which is why I think it's such a popular medium, versus like people hate listening and watching presentations. They hate it. They have to do it at work. You have to. Same thing with stand-up, which is another reason why I think stand-up and podcasts are just this like mega fucking industry right now, and it continues to blow up, as you I'm sure know. But it's the same structure. It could go anywhere. When I go to a comedy show, I'm watching this guy or gal for the first time, most likely, and if it's an open mic or whatever, and I'm in it to be surprised, to be shocked, to not know where the punchline is going to go. That's the cool thing about a podcast. That's the cool thing about watching stand-up, is you just don't know where it's going to go. And with a presentation, you're watching something at work, it's the same bullshit. And I think it would be so interesting to see a company go a different direction, where maybe every quarter they treat it as if it's a podcast, comedy style type of questions from the audience, or fucking maybe you're riffing or something. It doesn't necessarily have to be funny, but I feel like a lot of companies could go that route. I mean, how often have we done these presentations and these quarterly numbers? Probably since the 50s.
Exactly. And here's the other thing, when you talk about comedy, the parallel between comedy and all these marketing presentations that we're talking about is quality of sound. And so, I was just it was like a one-man show, but even like at a comedy club, if the sound isn't great, like I was at this one-man show, and every time he was talking normal, it's fine. But if he raised his voice, kind of blew out the speaker. Yeah. So that was done for effect, and I was supposed to laugh, but I can't hear it because it's
muffled.
It's now mumbled. Yeah. And how many times are you at a corporate event or one of these presentations that we're talking about, and nobody wants to put the microphone near their mouth because they think they look silly? You know what's silly? Me not being able to hear you and watching you talk for 25 minutes, and I have to tune out because I can't hear you because you're afraid to put a microphone in your face because no one taught you how to hold a microphone and how a microphone actually works.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's so irritating. It's like, it's one of those things where you're sitting there and you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
Come on. It's like,
Well, especially you're a double threat because you're a comedian and podcaster. So, you're behind the mic 40% of your day, right? It's like you're probably more picky than most. Yeah.
Even when you watch like national news and they go to these people in front of their bookshelf.
Oh yeah.
And they got their AirPod Pros in. Hey, spoiler to everyone, just because they're expensive, they're crap for doing podcast interviews. Sorry to be the one to break it to everyone. Just because you spend a lot of money on something, you're better off using the wired things that came with your iPhone.
For real.
It's going to be a better. Bluetooth screws it up. Keep in mind, you're now transmitting across the thing. You already have crappy Wi-Fi, and now you're adding on a thing. And so it's frustrating. And now they have their place. Don't get me wrong. I have my
They're good for listening, but you don't use it as a mic, which is very fascinating, especially because I like to do a lot of talking when I'm walking. And I stopped using my Air Pros now that I have these Meta Ray-Ban glasses. Those are actually better than my AirPods, which are the Pros, which is so weird because how do you go from the wired one that sounds amazing and the mic is like halfway down your shirt and it sounds better than the mic is actually in your ear? It's very weird. The technology, I don't understand it. It makes no sense.
It's funny because like dealing with folks that don't have good technology, everyone's like, you're such a good interviewer. You just let people talk. And that be a good interviewer, don't get me wrong. But how I train myself to do that is knowing that if I talk while you're talking, because they don't have a microphone, it'll blow out the sound.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I just fuck up. And so And then was like, and then realize, oh, this is a good approach, even if they have a microphone.
Yes.
And, so it's like, but that's how I got trained to do that. But,
well, and that's why I carry around a microphone when I talk to my wife. So I could actually listen to her because she kept telling me I keep interrupting her.
I was just telling someone I was telling this story that, when you're interviewing people and you're listening back, you don't hear it now, but if you were to listen back or listen to a recording, you'd probably at points hear us going, I'm going to exaggerate it for a second, right? You kind of take a breath and I was like, it has that noise. And
that's right.
You don't hear it when you're listening to someone live or you're watching. It doesn't really register. I hear it because my ears hear everything now because
because you're editing.
It doesn't mean I'm a good listener. It just means I hear things. And so we were watching the news and I said to my wife, I go, you hear that? It drives me crazy. And she's like, hear what? I'm like, listen, when they go, they take a deep breath before they say the next thing. And then you can't unhear it once you know it exists.
So true. So true. I do the same thing, especially when I realize that most recently when I started this podcast, if it is a long sentence or I'm telling a story, I usually go, so I do that. And I'm like, once I started editing and I kept hearing it every sentence that I'm doing it, I'm like, okay. Which is why I'm a huge believer in, especially because I have a couple clients that I do their podcast coaching for. And I realize that a lot of people want to outsource their editing, which of course is great for someone like myself that, lives off that. So thank you. But it's also if you have a podcast, I think it's important that you should edit in some aspect because I feel that I've gotten so much better in the, I think I'm at 226 or 7 episodes. So almost 250 episodes, but the first episode was garbage. The 20th episode was garbage. The third, when I started doing video, that's when my episodes started getting better, which is around episode 50, because I was actually editing and watching myself. I was watching gestures and I was listening to myself intently. And, there's something different about when you're able to watch yourself and realize the things that you're doing, whether it's the little breaths or you're interrupting people. And of course, virtually, it's a little bit more of a challenge because of the lag. But you learn a lot more about your technique by editing your own content. So getting involved in that aspect and kind of critiquing yourself a little bit. I hate listening to my podcast, but I have been doing it a lot lately just to continuously get better at a lot of different things. Maybe my intro's too long or maybe my ad should be mid-roll instead of pre-roll. There's little things that you kind of have to do and be critical about yourself in order to get better. So I've realized that a lot. And I think if you're in any type of speaking role or maybe it's comedy, whatever it is, I feel like listening to yourself is key,
So funny story. So Halloween, this past Halloween, my neighbor comes over and he says, Jeff, I was driving to Chicago for work. My podcast that I normally listen to didn't have any episodes. It says Jeff Dwoskin recommends. And so I click on it and it's this isn't Jeff Dwoskin recommends. This is Jeff Dwoskin. And he has no idea I have a podcast up until this exact moment. And he starts listening to the podcast. He's like, dude, I binged a ton of episodes. I called my wife. I'm like, Jeff's got a podcast and it's good. I really enjoy it. And so he's telling us his story. And he goes, yeah, I listened to whatever the current episode at that time was, episode 280 and 281. And then I went back to your first episode. And both my wife standing there, we both do this at the same exact time. We went, yeah. I'm like, no, you didn't. Please, no.
Don't ever.
But the other second greatest part about that story is he's just raving and raving, right? And it's so great. And he leaves and my wife goes, I'm pretty sure the Ring camera caught that whole thing.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's amazing. That should be, you should make a reel out of that. Yeah.
It was just funny, the visceral reaction of someone saying they went back and listened to my first episode. I'll tell you something. I released 3 episodes at one time when I started, which is I'm almost at 4 years. And I'm at just over 300 episodes now. And, my friends were all like, this is great. This is great. Oh, you're so great. Yeah. Right.
Of course.
And I'm like, thanks. And And so I don't know, say a year or so ago, maybe I don't know what it was, 2 years. I switched providers and had to go in and do ad spots. I was going to be putting ads in for the very first time. So I had to go back and put markers in to my episodes. So I started listening to those early episodes.
Because you had to.
Because I had to.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of those breaths and stuff. And like, so now that's the director's cut episodes because I took the opportunity. I didn't update all of them, but
that's
the first couple, maybe a little bit. And it was just so, and I emailed all of them. I go, what the hell smoke were you blowing up my ass that you told me these were so great?
Yeah.
And they're like, but you know what? This is what I've come to realize. They're only not great because of where I ended up. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Like,
yeah.
It's like at the time they were great. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, and I realized I always joke, if you listen to my podcast backwards, I get worse. Right.
Yeah.
And so that is the truth. And that's how it should be. If your first episode is as good as your 300th episode, either this is your 5th podcast,
right?
or it's just, or you didn't improve at all. You know what I mean?
Or you're part of a new reality show called Undercover Podcast Host, where you're really a secret, incredible podcast host, and you make a new one. Yeah,
exactly.
It's I related to my buddy that's starting a podcast. I'm helping him out do it, and he's like, "Man, how do you get?" Same conversation. How'd you get so good? Talking to me, blah, blah, blah. And told him the whole story about episode 1. And I go, "Dude, think about it. Like, you don't know, just like what you said. You don't know that you're bad in the moment, in the now. It's only when you start comparing yourself to where you are today." And you could say that with every podcast host, from like Joe Rogan to, Dak Shepard, like all these big wigs. You go back to episode 1 and they're garbage. And at the time, though, I think when your friends are saying you are good, you were good. You were good to your friends then. And because the same thing people told me on episode 1. Oh my God, you're an amazing interviewer. And I look at that now, I'm like, I was not. It was horrible. But it's almost like, you go back to like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, right? The very first one, the graphics. Oh my God, the CGI. Amazing. How can you get better than that? But then now 2023, you look at, No Way Home and Far From Home, and that's like, holy shit. This is this is the best Spider-Man film ever. Like, it looks amazing. So I think in 20 years, we'll look back and say, that was okay compared to what it is now. So it's like, things are only going to get better, and it's through practice and repetition that you do it. So whether it's through film or podcasting or whatever, it's always going to be worse if you go back.
It was interesting going back, because in my head I thought it was all out. I mean, I was going all in, right?
Sure.
In terms of, just you know what I mean, just
yeah.
Your voice and all that. And I could hear myself only at 60%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, whereas like later, you kind of get more comfortable, and
sure.
And it's just, if 100%
yeah,
you or something. And I was like, it's interesting, the journey and making those changes along the way to be better. So
yeah, and
the major thing I changed, if you listen to old episodes, I don't even get to the interview till like 7 minutes in.
Oh, really?
Now it's a minute and a half. Boom.
Yeah.
Well, because I had all this stuff. When I first started doing podcasting, I thought, this is great. Everyone will listen to episode 1, and then episode 2, and then episode 3, and then episode 4. And turns out that's not the case.
No.
That's not how it works. And so I would put like subtle jokes in that you would they built on each other. Like the announcer would come in, and I still do this, and I always say a different name. Thank you, Tony, for getting the show. Like, I would just call him something different. And it usually was a name that had something to do with my guest. It just meant something to me. Nobody would do it, but that's what it basically was. And I would do like these joke commercials that were like these things. And, and some people like thought they were real commercials. I'm like, no, that's the paint shop that the robot blows up in that movie this person was in. I made a whole commercial for the paint shop, and I don't call it out. I just treat it like it was a real thing. But it was like, and I realized it's a lot of work to like do all this stuff. And it was like, I thought it was like,
it's clever though.
Yeah, it was, and I was like, I thought it was like something that was like, I gotta like show me. And then I was like, you know what? I just have to have my interviewiness be what kind of pops when it comes to that kind of stuff, and go from that. But my percentage listen rate went much higher when I dropped it and got into it in a minute and a half. And that minute and a half is more just me going, all right, coming up is Tony Berardo. You love him on the Berardo podcast and this and that. And that's coming up in just a few seconds. But just quick reminder, last week I had Ed Asner on, and we were talking about his life and all that. But right now, let's get to Tony. It's like, I only have one voice.
It's a great voice.
I was listening on this TikTok thing. This random TikTok came up. I saved it. She's like, I'm a voice actor, and here are the 9 tones. And like 9. But it was. She was like here's like the series, and she could change her voice like to fit like different tones, like moods, or like what you're supposed to get out of something. And I was just like, wow, interesting.
That's fascinating. Yeah, for someone who shares 90% of that word, I don't really have different tones, which is weird. Like, I mean, I'm decent at like impressions and fluctuations and things like that, but it's interesting when you hear about people that have those talents to go different tones, whether it's an artist or a voice actor. That's like the most fascinating thing to me, where you can change your voice, especially actors. That's crazy. Like for the longest time, let's talk about TikTok. I saw this one TikTok where it was this guy goofing on, he was an interviewer, but he was interviewing Tom Holland. And he was talking to him and he goes, hey, it was like a Zach Galifianakis type of riff where he was just fucking with him, but Tom Holland didn't know. And he's like, so like, how did you get that British accent? And Tom is like, no, I'm not American. I'm actually from, he's like, no, but like the accent that you use in Spider-Man, like, how did you switch from that to this accent that you're doing right now? This British one. He's like, no, mate, like I'm actually, and he kept like for 4 minutes. And I'm like, you look at Tom Holland or like Christian Bale, like these guys, they're talented because you wouldn't know that they're actually, from Australia or Great Britain or whatever.
Right. The whole cast of Succession, everyone who won the awards is from Australia or something.
That's right.
It's like,
which is crazy. And
everyone's so worried about the border. It's these actors that are taking good American jobs away from Americans.
Yeah, let the Mexicans in. We don't have to worry about them. And
I didn't see one Mexican on Succession.
So what does that tell you?
All the Australians, but no one's talking about the Australians. I mean, they're taking away the job.
Although
British, changing their voice, taking our jobs.
Fucking just coming in here pretending like they're American just so they can be in movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Margot Robbie. I mean, look at her.
Yeah,
winning awards and shit. Come on. Didn't she get cuckold from? Didn't Ryan Gosling win an award? I saw a meme.
No, he got nominated. Well, those nominations are
garbage.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yes, Barbie was a huge movie, and it did get some nominations. I mean, there's plenty of times Spielberg didn't get nominated for things much bigger and better than Barbie.
Yeah,
sometimes it doesn't happen. And I was reading also that sometimes, and I'm not saying this is it, but like sometimes people don't vote for people because they don't, there's a thing, you know what I mean? It's just like, there's other reasons, not because it wasn't a great movie. But it was just, there's other reasons that certain people get shut out all the time or don't win.
Yeah.
I thought Margot Robbie was great, but was that I mean, I don't want to get canceled, but I mean, was it really like the best actress in the world? I mean, she was amazing, but a lot of people were amazing, and you can't compare her to Ryan Gosling. It's a whole different category. And what I mean? Like,
I mean, Ryan Gosling's a white male, and he obviously is very talented. And, they're Margot Robbie is a woman, and she's not. I'm just kidding.
Was more, no, she's amazing, Margot Robbie.
She's great.
But and so is Greta. And and they created an amazing thing. And I liked the movie a lot. And I mean, it broke every record. And but I mean, Scorsese. I mean, didn't he just win an award? I mean, it's like sometimes they don't. I think it was more that the point of the movie was men overshadowing the women, and Ryan Gosling did, but other people did. America got Ferrara got a nomination. Nobody talks about that. Billie Eilish is probably going to win an Oscar. She already crushed every other award. Dua Lipa has been getting huge kudos for her songs. There's been things that
although and Margot Robbie was great in that, but if you look at, I saw, again, we go back TikTok, but I saw this very fascinating comparison where it did a side by side of like her and Barbie versus her and playing Harley Quinn. And
this is not Margot Robbie's best role. I mean, she's amazing, but she's acted the living shit out of like a lot of everything else. Like those are the things people should be upset about.
Right. Like she was better to me in like Wolf of Wall Street than she was in Barbie.
Harley Quinn. Like, where was the outrage then?
But it's funny that she even got nominated because this guy on TikTok was making fun of like, she got nominated because of, the movie itself had a great message. But in terms of like her performance, though it was great, if you watch Harley Quinn, her character's he did a side by side of the movements, the acting, the eyebrows, her smile. It was like uncanny. And then at the end of the video, he even added in Harley Quinn type music to the Barbie thing, and you wouldn't know. Like if there was a filter on it, you wouldn't know. And it was pretty interesting. I'm sure people could look at it on TikTok, but the point there was, she was great, but the movie itself was the message. It wasn't like she did anything crazy that she hasn't done in other roles.
I would, if I was to put my weight behind anything, I'd say like Greta should have got nominated.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That I think that was a bigger miss. Margot Robbie's going to win 1 million more Oscars. You know what I mean? Like she's amazing, right? So,
for sure.
But again, we're talking about award shows. These are things that are subjective. Right. It's like
they're more scripted than the NFL.
I'm sure somebody who knows more than me could pick out 20 actors and actresses that probably deserve to get accolades that nobody even knows who they are. Right. You know what I mean? And so it's just it is what it is. I mean,
and how much of those award shows are actually legitimate? I mean, it's there's probably more voter fraud than, the Bush Gore election in that. I mean, I can't imagine, you're right. I can't imagine there's.
Right. Did they actually even watch any of these things? Right. It's all based on so that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's entertainment. Yeah. Some of them get an award. Yeah. They're still amazing whether you get the award or not. You know what I mean?
That's right.
It's let's talk about Jay-Z complaining about Beyonce never winning album of the year.
Dude, I was just about to bring that up. That was amazing. What a goat he is.
I thought that was ridiculous. I mean, think about like how many Miley Cyrus stole the Grammys. First of all, I can't stop watching that live performance. Yeah. I think she's so amazing. But the fact that she's been in this industry how long, and she's put out amazing albums, great songs, and then she's like, I won my first Grammy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like Taylor Swift, who's won it now 4 times, album of the year, could double the number of Grammy wins that she has and still be 10 away from Beyonce.
Yeah. For real.
It's like, I mean, Beyonce is the most awarded person of all time.
Just never album of the year. Yeah. Who cares?
Just never album of the year. I mean, it's like, you're the GOAT, Beyonce. Yeah. Everyone loves you. You're amazing. I just didn't understand that message.
But that's, well, that's what to me is so funny about that, is because the fact that he did that is, I'm sure he believes it. And I'm sure you look at Beyonce and you're like, how come she hasn't won album of the year? It's like, well, there's a reason why a lot of people don't have Super Bowl rings. It's just because, they might be MVP, or they might have the most rushing yards, and they might be the quarterback of the year. But if you don't bring a Super Bowl, it's like Beyonce is like the Dan Marino. Like, she's great on paper and she's winning all these awards, but she doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. Whatever, who cares? She's
won 33 Grammys or 34 Grammys. I mean, it's like.
But if you listen to her albums, but if you listen to her albums just aren't They're not that good. I mean, there's a few bangers on there, but as the album as a whole, that's why Taylor Swift is, winning in a row. That's why you haven't won. Like, just make your album as a whole better. You can't be a Jay-Z and sit up there.
Or do what you're doing because it got you 33 Grammys.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have, right? I mean, literally,
Sure.
Taylor Swift could win twice. I mean, there are people in that audience who have never won a Grammy ever.
Yeah.
Ever. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, if I was the person giving that award to Jay-Z and then that's how he used it. I mean, it's just like,
it's insulting
to like
in
the
a way.
speech and in front of his daughter. I mean,
it's insulting.
I was just like, come on. I mean, is that really the message here is Beyonce's never won?
Yeah.
She's won 33, but not good enough. It just isn't good enough. The 33, you know what I mean?
Well, I think world peace was taken. So he probably went that route of everything. Everything in Ukraine is fine. So he didn't want to mention anything about there. God was fine. So he didn't want to mention that. So he wanted to talk about his wife not winning enough fucking Grammys. Yeah.
It's like,
come on.
Billy Joel was awesome.
Yeah.
That was really good. And then I love that he's having a resurgence. And then,
who hasn't?
And then, who's the name? Why am I blanking on the Cloud song?
I only watched highlights.
Joni Mitchell. She was great too.
Joni Mitchell.
It's a great story and good comeback. And here's Joni Mitchell, first time singing at the Grammys. She's 80, and like her intro was she's inspired everybody in the room, but she's never been invited to sing at the Grammys. But Beyonce's 33 Grammys aren't enough.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's just like, when you put all this stuff into perspective, it's like, come on.
Yeah.
There's people that'll never win.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I think Jay-Z probably had a realization when he got off, similar to how like Will Smith was like, I shouldn't have done that. Where he was probably like, I probably wasn't the right thing. Maybe on paper in his head, it was like, you know what? I'm going to I just got in big trouble from my wife because I left the stove on. So I'm going to go ahead and make it up to her. And when I get this Grammy, I'm going to say it on stage and I'm going to give her props so she loves me again. Maybe he was doing it like internally because they had an argument. That's what I'm envisioning. Because there's no way he was planning that out. It's just irresponsible. Doesn't make any sense.
No, it definitely seemed like he was just riffing that speech as he got up there.
Yeah. But when he got done, he's probably like, fuck, I probably shouldn't.
You know what always bothered me about the Will Smith thing? I mean, besides hitting someone is wrong, is
I thought you were talking about his last movie he did, but you're talking about the slap. Got it.
The slap, yeah, well, both. But the the slap is at the time. Okay, so Chris Rock disrespects his wife, even though it was just, softball joke. I mean, could there be a more softball joke than your wife looks like G.I. Jane, which by the way is a compliment. His wife's
great movie,
awesome, and Demi Moore was hot in that movie. I mean, to me it's a woman, a bald woman who's rocking that look. I mean, it's just a joke. But anyway, forget that aside. I get the potential insensitivity of it, but that aside, there was a 99.9% chance that within 5 minutes of that comment from Chris Rock, Will Smith was going to be on that stage anyway, accepting his Oscar, right?
Yeah.
It was almost written in the stars, right?
Sure.
All he had to do was bite his lip, knowing, and then just change the speech. And he could have just kind of taken a minor swipe at Chris Rock about the insensitivity and defended his wife that way in a very mature way.
Yeah. Probably funny way.
And probably had a moment to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then accepted his thing. And then that standing ovation that he got for slapping Chris Rock would have been misdirected or reinterpreted, for him defending his wife and for winning the Oscar that he had earned.
Yeah.
And so, that's what always bothered me about it. It's like, dude, you're a smart guy. Yeah. You were going to be on stage in 5 minutes anyway.
He had to have known that. Had to have known. Yeah. Yeah, I forget who it was. I think it was Chappelle that had a great bit in his last special about it. And I don't want to butcher it, but it was something along the lines of like, I never thought I'd live to see the day where someone would slap someone on stage and then immediately go on top of immediately go accept an award for it. Because that's essentially how it looks. Like if you had to highlight reel that award show in order sequentially, it goes Chris Rock gets slapped, Will Smith gets an award. That's how, if you don't know about the awards and you just got highlights, that's how it went down, and it's fucking crazy. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's you think he'll ever recover from that? Like, I don't think.
I mean, people forget, you know what I mean? And they forget everything.
Yeah, but oof.
If he comes out with like a killer movie that's not specifically like, I'm trying to win an Oscar, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you know, then yeah. I mean, people time, you know.
Something more shitty will happen.
I think what didn't help is Jada's book saying, "Oh, we're really not separate." I mean, there's so much confusion around that relationship that him doing the slap doesn't even make sense. Like, what was he defending? Like, they don't have a relationship. I mean, I don't, you know, there's a million things. I don't.
And she probably did that just to separate herself and try to, I would guess. And then maybe their relationship was shitty to begin with. Or, you know, I always thought maybe their relationship was so shitty, but he did that because he was like trying to be a tough guy. He's like, how can I compare to Tupac? Well,
yeah,
I can't.
How can I like show the world that I'm, you know, I mean, it's like
that I'm a gangster. Like, come on, bro. Yeah, I don't know. Weird, man. Celebrities are weird. Hollywood is weird. As I continue to interview people in different genres, it is kind of cool how every single person that I talk to always has kind of like a funny story that I feel like is so Hollywood. But then like now that I'm working for myself, and by Hollywood, I mean like there's always drama, but working for myself, I haven't had any drama. Like there's no, you know, and I'm not saying everyone should work for themselves. I'm just saying it's just funny how if you disconnect yourself from like, not just work drama, but the things you consume too. You know, like the podcasts I'm listening to are more uplifting, educational comedy podcasts. The TV shows I watch are not like drama and fucking reality shows. It's all like funny, lighthearted
Suits.
stuff.
You gotta watch Suits.
Suits? I keep hearing Suits amazing. I need to watch that. And now they just showed up in a T-Mobile ad, so I feel like I'm getting
Suits
signs.
is a super fun show. It's a drama, but not one that you can take seriously. You know what I mean? It's like popcorn drama. And it's super fun to watch.
I love fun. It. All right, I'll check it out. Yeah, I think it's on Hulu or something now, maybe.
It is on, I think, Netflix season 1 through 8, and then season 9 you have to watch on Prime.
Oh, okay. Yeah. In fact, speaking of new shows, have you watched what is it? The Sofia Vergara one?
I haven't watched that. No, is it good?
Yeah, dude, watch. If you like Narcos, you'll dig this. Yeah.
Okay.
It's so good.
She's a female drug lord. Is that what it is?
Yeah. She's apparently the only, based on a true story, because everything is, she's the only person that Pablo Escobar feared. And she was ruthless. Yeah. So if any of the things she did in this series is half as true as what they say, she's an animal. So that's a really good one. And then I haven't watched a whole lot of series. Not even movies, really, which is a big, you know, I want to get back on your other great show.
I hear Madam Web is great.
Yeah, I keep hearing that too. I hear that, no surprise, when the execs, you know, get involved prior to all the cuts. I hear it was great.
I don't know.
But they took out all the.
Posted something. I said, look, it's a red flag. Whenever they do a preview, and it's the stars talking about the movie, you know, it's not good.
No.
The only time they do the interview style previews, is when the movie's horrible.
Yeah, when they're trying to bash it. Yeah, it's
like, oh, maybe they'll come because they love Sydney Sweeney. You know what I mean? So,
right. Which is so weird.
They're only in those costumes for like 5 seconds.
That's what I heard. Yeah, but you know, I heard that there was even Dakota Johnson said that there was so many things that got pulled, and she was so disappointed, which is why her press tour seems like it's, a kamikaze mission. Like, if you noticed, she's blasting the whole fucking movie, because apparently, like, when she saw the cut, she's like, this is completely different than, and they were promised, I guess Sony promised them they were going to get into the MCU, which is why all these bigwigs signed on, which makes sense. That's a very Sony move. They did it with Morbius, to where they lied and said, it was going to go one way, and they put in like these stupid
Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man are just like,
it's so weird.
Stop.
It's so weird.
I don't get the Venom one either. It's like, I mean, they're Tom Hardy. I mean, they're enjoyable, but like, Venom only looks like Venom because of the black suit from Spider-Man. It's like, but let's not have Spider-Man even in the movie. It's like,
at least with Venom, it seems like there's a end game, pun intended, because he was in one of the Spider-Man movies.
I think eventually they wove one in.
Right.
Once the multiverse happened, then there was like all these things suddenly that could happen.
Yeah, if anything, I'm more excited. Fuck everything else, but this Deadpool and Wolverine movie, come on.
It's funny because they were trolling everyone that it was going to be called Deadpool and Friend.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, this is horrible. And then...
Oh, it's somehow worse, but I think it's going to be great.
It looks great. It looks
no, I mean the title. The title is like it would have been better Deadpool and Friends. I think that's cute and funny and kind of on brand. Right. But Deadpool and Wolverine, you're like, But I think it's going to be one of the greatest superhero movies ever. So I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
I do too. Yeah. I do too. Because Ryan Reynolds isn't putting up with any of the bullshit.
No, and in fact, that's a big reason why I heard they had to stop, right? Is because with the strike, they stopped filming because obviously you can't improv. They don't allow you. It's a full strike. So that's why they wanted to stop completely. Because a lot of studios, ended up wrapping things up and figuring things out to make the movie happen. But, this is Ryan Reynolds' baby, which is why I think it's going to be great. And then Hugh Jackman, kudos to him for coming back, going full through. They've been teasing it for so long anyway, this relationship. It's like, if they didn't do it,
Yeah, their friendship is great.
Yeah, it's, really cool. It's cool. But how is
we're going to get all the real X-Men costumes and stuff.
Yes. About fucking time. 25 years later, huh?
I know,
so weird. Again, Hollywood is so weird because they don't listen to the viewer. It's so fascinating. Time and time again, like Madam Web, great example. But all these, like, no one's asking for this stuff. But when we do ask for something, if we want the authentic, if we want comic accurate stuff or whatever accurate it is, or if I'm reading a book and the book is not like the movie, like, these are things that executives should know already. Like Zack Snyder, we wanted a Man of Steel 2. Just fucking give it to us, James Gunn, okay? Don't make me go through this whole 20-year buildup again of these movies that you're going to make, which I'm sure they're going to be great. But it's so funny how, like, James Gunn, this prick, he makes some great movies, but you notice he pretty much eradicated everything from the Snyder Universe except Peacemaker.
Right. Well, Peacemaker was great. It
was great. But so is Suicide Squad, but he's not going to bring back Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, because that lives in the Jared Leto universe, which is Zack Snyder. So it's like, how are you going to keep that though? So then what is there going to be a different Superman now?
Yeah, there is.
No, I know, but in the Peacemaker universe.
Oh, I don't think, they never really showed Henry Cavill. It was just like an outline.
Get rid of boy. Like, you're not going to keep Wonder Woman again, but you're only keeping Peacemaker? Come on, bro. If it was anybody else's movie, would you be keeping Peacemaker? Honestly, no.
The second Suicide Squad was amazing.
It was great.
And
much better.
I don't know. The whole reboot thing is like, it's coming on the heels of just like both DC and Marvel kind of imploding. So it's like, Marvel had a great thing going and then somehow ruined it. And
yeah. Well, it's all this whole, like, quantity over quality. Right. Like when you're making
Ant-Man Quantumanium, horrible.
Oh, I didn't even watch it. I heard it was so bad. It was bad.
And I started watching the Marvels and I thought it was kind of a cute movie, at least the first part of it. I have to go back to it, but the thing with like the Marvels is you had to watch Miss Marvel to know that character, and like there's just too much homework. I can't do homework.
Yeah.
Every movie being just a movie to promote and push another movie it's just enough already.
Yeah.
Like when Wakanda Forever had Ironheart because they're going to do a TV show with Ironheart, which never happened, hasn't happened. And it's like, everything is just promoting something else. It's like,
I know.
Just make a movie. Make a movie.
I hate when that happens, especially like, what you should do is go back and listen to my episode of number 220, where I talk about this in particular. I hate when people promote things like that. So subscribe if you can. Go to youtube.com/@TonyBerard. No, just kidding. No, but you're right though. Yeah, it's and I think even with the Marvels, didn't you have to like watch WandaVision because the other Marvel was in there?
I don't know. Oh, the Marvels? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
The daughter from who's all grown up now and became a super powered person in WandaVision,
which was like 4 years ago. And that's another thing with these timelines is like they are expected, these movies, if you watch them, they're like a couple weeks apart. Like if you're watching them back to back, but they came out 3 years later from the movie that you were supposed to.
Doctor Strange 2, which was horrible, though I love Sam Raimi, was like supposed to be after or like right after WandaVision. And then, but there was like, the things got switched around. And this is the problem with everything having to do with everything else. It was like,
that's too far.
I felt like Doctor Strange 2 made the one mistake that you can't do in these movies when Wanda killed all those superheroes.
Yeah.
Right. With ease, like with just basically no effort.
Right.
It's like, well, if that's the case, then she could just kill everybody. I mean, there's no movie, there's no story if someone has that level of power.
And by the way, where was this bitch when Thanos was around? She couldn't do this to Thanos?
Well, that's the thing. She did take Thanos on.
Right.
And
barely.
But didn't not to this level where she just destroyed Reed Richards or Captain Miss Marvel.
But she gets her own show on Disney Plus and she has all these powers now. It's like you could have had this.
That was
Thanos.
A great show. WandaVision was one of the great.
WandaVision was great. I think a lot of it is the throwback aspect. I'm realizing that. You ever hear the 30-year rule when it comes to marketing? No. It's the 30-year rule is if you can market, whether it's a show, a product, whatever, 30 years in advance or behind. So like you look at Stranger Things, that's another great example, where they followed the 30-year rule, where everything was placed 30 years ago. So it not only appeals to us, right? Because there's a little bit of nostalgic, but it's the people that haven't lived through that era. And for them, it's like watching Star Trek, right? Because it's new and, oh, what is this? A Nintendo? What is that? And it's like, it's this new environment. So you're hitting both demos. That's the 30-year rule and that's what WandaVision did it was just amazing because it hit everybody, right? It like Dick Van Dyke era. And you're like, oh, this is so like cool. You know what I mean?
So everybody.
Yeah, it was just amazing. Yeah. Overall, I think like I would watch sequels to that, but the fact that they jumped from that right away to her killing everybody, it's like, dude, come on.
And apparently she's dead. I didn't even realize that. Apparently she died. Supposedly in like the Marvel books, she died in Doctor Strange 2. And
at the end, something collapsed or whatever, right? The mountain she was on or something. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, what are you gonna do? But other than that, you're watching a lot of movies. The podcast is good. How's the business? How's Stampede Social? Which, by the way, been loving. So shout out if people don't know, but it's a really cool tool. I know you're constantly, putting updates into it and making it better and better and better, which I think it's great now. But it's awesome, man. So you guys are doing a good job with it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something I enjoy doing. Kind of, just building things and tools and it's like one of those things like what do I wish I had and it's like it's great. I mean it's definitely picking up momentum, which is great. And I just it's it's an awareness thing, just trying to keep getting the word out.
For people don't know, because I've talked about it before, but for people who don't know, give me kind of a cliff notes of what Stampede Social is and what makes them different than other platforms like it out there.
Sure. So one is that Stampede Social is a platform, so it's not a tool. So a lot of other things out there are tools. They do one specific thing.
Mhm.
And so when we were creating Stampede Social, we kind of looked at all the things we'd want it to be able to do and kind of put those all under one roof for Instagram. Instagram being a very important social platform for creators, but the problem with Instagram is there's a massive amounts of data there you can't get to. There's a lot of limitations to it. Everyone loves doing post level giveaways or go to my link in bio and here's some content, and or if you're doing user generated content and you want to be able to track that real easily, like all these things, but you can't do it. You can put them in motion. That's what I used to say when I was working with the agency. These are easy to put in motion, but you can't manage and measure them.
Mm-hmm.
So we fixed all that. So we created the best of tools that you would want. You don't have to send people the link in bio. Now you can just do it with DM automation. But we took DM automation, built a better mousetrap for that, made it really easy. 5 seconds and you're in, no convoluted flows or anything like that to set it up. And the link that the person gets is a unique link for that person, which is unique. So I know I sent this link to Tony. I know if you clicked on it, I know, and over time, I know what things you are requesting and enjoy. So I can start to learn and engage my fans in a much different way. I also can now understand who my top fans are through the report that gets generated through all this engagement. Post level giveaways. I think we have at least three that I saw just yesterday launch that, it has a winner selection tool built into the dashboard. So people just click those comments, hit a button, and it randomizes it and shuffles it and gives you a winners list.
Yeah.
So it makes it so easy because otherwise you can't get to those comments. Everyone always says comment below. Of 800 people comment, you can't get to those 800 comments.
Typically what people do is they'll just randomly go through the comments and just pick one that looks good or something. And this kind of takes the bias out of everything, and it lets people, actually comment, have a fair chance of doing it, and then just know that it's chance, right? It's luck. It's an automated tool that's going to select a winner versus like some guy in the boardroom that looks at your profile and is like, oh, that's a cool bikini, you win. It's like that's how, like when I was at some other companies, we used to do that. We used to do a lot of giveaways, and we didn't take any time to focus on all those comments they would just kind of scroll, close their eyes and pick something. And that's not a cool way to do business. So yeah, what you guys do with that giveaway in particular is fascinating. A lot different than what other people do out there. So that's cool. I like that part. Yeah.
And then, of course, AI, you got to do some AI stuff. So you can kind of pick how you write things. You can pick your tone and theme. Like I have it trained as me as a witty comedian. So when comments come in from a post, I can use the AI and it'll create cool responses, like templates or, not templates, but, it'll create a cool response and you can edit it and then send it. But it does it. But the other cool thing is it reads your caption. So it can really kind of create a real robust response to a comment. I also jokingly call it the what do I say to a fire emoji? So it can help you with that as well. But like with the comments when they come in, like one of the folks using Stampede Social was doing something and promoting this camera. So people were saying a lot of nice things about the camera and all that kind of good stuff. And there's a feature where you can do an analysis of the comments for that particular post. So here's a summary of all the comments and sentiment. And it's a thing that you can give back, especially if you're working with that particular company. So there's cool things like that we've done with AI, some other really cool AI stuff as well, competitive analysis, all that kind of stuff. But
and also too, that type of stuff is just easier to look on like a platform. Like you said, Stampede Usual is a platform. It's not necessarily an app or something, a plugin. That's all garbage. There's a lot of other stuff out there that I've used in particular, but what's cool about Stampede is a legit dashboard. So like when you link up your social media, everything's on there. Your metrics, you can respond to comments, like you could see the comments. And again, if you are doing a giveaway, instead of like scrolling on your phone trying to find it's all laid out, it's all there, and you could do, you can use AI to kind of streamline a lot of stuff. And I am noticing too, I'd love your opinion on this, but especially as a podcaster and a creator, my audience, they are starting to get a little bit more engaged because it's something new that I'm asking them to do with the whole hashtag and everything. But I'm noticing that Instagram in particular, I'm not getting as much engagement as I used to. And because you're kind of in like the back end of things, are you noticing there's a little bit of a difference? And is it because there's other platforms like TikTok, or is it because maybe, Instagram is focusing more on reels and they are static posts? Like, do you have any of the insights, what you've seen from your platform to getting integrated in Instagram?
What I've found is that people who don't get responses didn't ask for them, right? So,
yeah,
a lot of people do what I would call a billboard post, where it's you look at it and you have all the information, and you could choose to like it if you want, but there's no reason to. You've gotten everything out of it that you need.
That's right.
And so the interesting thing with Stampede Social is knowing that you can collect the comments from a particular post is to reframe how you use Instagram and come at particular how you come at it, how you come at particular concepts and ideas and conversations. So start a conversation. People will do what you ask them to do, but you have to ask them to do it.
Right.
So, right. So a lot of people, like, a mistake they do is they put this long caption and they do a call to action at the bottom.
That's right.
Problem is nobody's getting to the bottom. Yeah. So no one's, it's not that anybody ignored you. It's not that everyone's ignoring you. It's they didn't see it. Nobody's reading that much. Are you reading that much? That's a rhetorical question. Right. Everyone right now is saying, no, I'm not reading that much. And so you put the call to actions right at the top. And then if they want to kind of supplementally read more, do that. That call to action could be enter below. Here's how to enter. Here's how, use this hashtag if you want to link to this episode, or a link to download my 7 tips on how not to slap Chris Rock. And so, or download to get my 7 tips on how to be a marketing expert.
Sure.
The clip without the context won't make sense. But nice. So things like that. So it's like, if you want to start a conversation, what's your favorite movie? Right. Ask that up front. Don't talk about your favorite movie for 12 paragraphs. And then at the bottom go, what's your favorite movie? That's no one got to the bottom. Yeah. So it's not that people aren't engaging with you. It's that they didn't know you wanted the engagement. You got to kind of be a little more upfront with it and front and center. And that's the key.
And it is an adjustment too, even when it comes to, we talk about it with your show, with your podcast, and when it comes to creating content or podcasting or whatever, but it is an adjustment because we used to have intros, like intro music, pre-roll ads, all that stuff. And you wouldn't get into your episode, like you said, 7 minutes later, right? And I think a lot of people would listen to that 7 minutes and they would go all the way through. But nowadays, even just in a couple years, things have changed. And what I've noticed, because my posts have been pretty much the same, when I do put call to actions in the front of those captions, and by captions, we mean the description, right? So in the actual post, like I think I posted one yesterday that it was one of this new app that I'm using called Podbeat, which is a really cool app. And the very first thing I put in the description was download it in the App Store. Company reached out to me like, yo, bro, we're getting like a lot of downloads today. Thanks for the post, yada, yada, yada. But I put another paragraph below it, but no one read the fucking paragraph. They just went to the App Store. And that was like the first time I really tested that out. And it's fascinating because I used to write like very educational descriptions and captions, and no one's watching that anymore. No one's reading it. Same thing. And I think TikTok probably, made this evolve a lot faster than we probably should have as human beings, because that's just like a quick dopamine hit, and it's everybody that you don't know in your For You page. So every swipe is different. And we're so used to finding out what Jeff Dwoskin is wearing today on Facebook, or he's going to the mall wearing a blue shirt, whatever bullshit that was 20 years ago. And we dealt with that for 20 years, where it's like people we know doing things that we do. Going to the mall, going to the movies, marked safe because of this wildfire. Like, this is what we're programmed to do. But TikTok fucked that up in a good way, I think. But it kind of sucks as creators because the attention span is like 3 seconds now. You know,
it's half a second. It's like someone would be like, you would have gone viral, but you took a breath at the beginning. I'm like, what? It's like, right? We come from the time where things were 2 minutes and then they became 6 seconds. And it's funny because now TikTok's going back to long form and horizontal. It's like
fucking nuts.
Come on.
And yeah, dude. And I was reading a very fascinating article. I forget who wrote it. I think it was Press Publish, which is a really cool blog that I follow from Colin and Samir, which are some great podcasters as well. But they were talking about the horizontal video with TikTok and the fact that they were fighting with YouTube so much when they first launched, but now they're trying to be YouTube. But then, you know, parallel to that, YouTube is now focusing more on shorts and they're trying to be more like TikTok. And eventually they're just kind of meeting in the middle, all these platforms. And the article kind of broke down very nicely, which is they're doing this on purpose. We look at this like they're just trying to be like each other and they're trying to do that. The only reason they're doing it is because they're making us learn new things constantly, because what happens? We're going to spend more time on the app now. We're going to focus on more horizontal video on TikTok, but then we're also going to do vertical content on YouTube. So now we're spending more time on these apps. Oh, and then Instagram Reels is changing the algorithm and the hashtags and doing this. So we have to spend more time here. It's just keeping us on the apps. Like they're doing it on purpose because, again, just like I even saw a commercial the other day for Reese's Cups caramel. Like they're adding caramel to Reese's Cups. Okay. My wife says to me, she goes, that's stupid. Why would they change that? I go, they don't like that idea. That's a stupid idea. They know the Reese's Cup is the greatest Reese's. It's the greatest candy on the planet. You ever have like the big Reese's Cup?
Yeah, it is great. But I mean, adding caramel is not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea. But the only reason they do it is because they need more space on the shelf. They need to innovate.
Well, yeah, and they need to
change it up. They need to be relevant. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, right, and it opens up the conversation again.
That's right.
Hearing about the caramel one reminds you of the other ones as well.
So you're going to buy the other ones to compare, like
right. But you don't need to hear about Reese's Cups again. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's kind of the point of what these apps are doing is they're giving us more things to do to remind us, oh shit, we got to do this. We got to do that. It's
too much. It's too much.
It's way too much, man. Plus you factor in like having kids and stuff. It's a lot, dude.
It's a lot.
It's way too much. Yeah. But I know Instagram kind of is the bread and butter for Stampede Social. Obviously that was calculated.
Stampede Social focused on Instagram because Instagram has the most missing features that one would want. And so, you know, to create that ability to fill in those blanks was a great place to start. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
We originally actually built it on Twitter, and you know we had to move away from Twitter when Elon kind of changed the way Twitter works with developers. So, but Instagram, just like I said, like has all those pieces that are missing that are so vitally important. You know,
yeah.
So you know where you can say, "Hey, click download," and I'll send you a link directly to where you can download this app, and you can give not only just feeling, oh, we had some extra downloads, but you can say, well, I know I drove X. I know they clicked on it X amount of times. I know exactly who wanted more information or who wanted to get that app because they requested it. And I can now provide that to you as feedback as well. And you can follow up with them to see how they liked it and all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah. Well, and I think Instagram, aside from Twitter, I think is the most downloaded and most used app on the planet.
Yeah, it's in the top 4. It's a top 4.
Yeah, it's a top 4 one. No, but I think I saw something the other day where Twitter's number 1, the most used, people spend the most time, rather, excuse me. They use the most time on their phone is on Twitter. That's number 1, or X. Number 2 is Instagram. Number 3, I think, is Facebook. Number 4 is TikTok. Which I thought, if you asked me today, I'm like, TikTok's number 1. Like if I had
I'm surprised YouTube. I mean, well, maybe YouTube's not considered an app because it's just, but you just go to YouTube. But like,
right. Yeah,
YouTube's like one of the top ones as well. So
YouTube's got to be 1 or 2 for sure. Yeah, in terms of video, consuming video, for sure. But yeah, I think if you grab people's phone and look at it, I would imagine the most people spend time on is Instagram. Like, I wouldn't guess Twitter, but I guess Twitter's still cranking.
It's interesting how they use it for different things. Like Twitter, I would use for mostly trends. And if Threads can pull that together, in their long climb to try and replace Twitter, trends is the thing that they're missing, really. To know what people are talking about in the world or United States or wherever you're at. And it's like,
that's what Twitter's really good at. Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't know that when they went to cut Twitter's, at the knees. But but I hear that that's coming, or they're working on that. And so that'll be a game changer for them to get that in Threads. But again, it's all about visibility and being able to, like you said, these algorithms change. And even Apple, the new iOS 17, supposedly you get less downloads now. I mean, it's like,
I heard that. Yeah,
they're always making it difficult for the people they shouldn't be making it difficult for.
I know, it's so weird. And it reminds me of something I plugged into ChatGPT and Midjourney. It was a prompt of like what we would look like in 2050. I shared this on Threads, but the image is fascinating because it's like everyone's wearing Apple Vision Pro. It's what it looks like in the thing. But I asked, I forget the prompt, but it was like, show me what teenagers would look like in the year 2050 based off the current trends and technology innovations. And it showed me that image. I'll text it to you. It's crazy. It's so weird to look at.
That would be like at the time of Google Glasses, to like say everyone's wearing Google Glasses, who, apparently was a little bit before their time.
Yeah.
But like,
but it looks like ready.
It would be hard. I would think it would be hard
one.
for AI to make that prediction, given it's been 30 years since there's been any discernible fashion trends that would set these decades apart from other decades.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
Go dress like you're in the 2000s. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
70s, 80s, 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
You can come up with something, but
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird, man. I don't know if I'm using AI a lot for business and stuff, but it's always kind of fun to throw those things in the mix to see. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how I live without ChatGPT.
For real, right? Yeah. It's crazy.
I mean, it's like, I use it a lot. For my podcast, I started using it to create chapters for my YouTube. I didn't realize how easy it was to make chapters for YouTube.
What do you mean? Just for like different timestamps?
Yeah. Really? Apparently it's supposed to help with the
SEO
discoverability and stuff. Yeah. Because it'll prioritize that, because it'll be like, Tony and Jeff talk about the Oscars, and you can click right to it. And so.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And here's the thing. I thought you had to do like this whole thing with chapters and stuff. All you do is type in, let's say it happens at the 5-minute mark. You write 05:00, and then you write Tony and Jeff talk about whatever. And then on YouTube, when you view it, that's clickable to the 5-minute mark.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's all it is. It's like,
I do timestamps, but how do you what's the prompt for ChatGPT? Do you just copy and paste your YouTube link?
Go to the GPT store,
right,
and just type YouTube chapters, and there'll be a couple that come up, and just play with the one you like. It does it. Someone already figured it out for us. So.
Wow.
I created my own GPT for my whole show notes process. I upload the transcript that I create from Otter, and then it just takes me through the process. Here's your show notes. These good? All right, let's make some tweets. All right, let's do a couple summaries. Let's do SEO. Let's do, hashtags, So it's like using it. It's fun. It's great. I created GPT that has a database of the records that I own.
Oh, really?
So that when I'm at a record store, I can just type in Billy Joel, and it'll return all the records that I have of Billy Joel, so I don't buy doubles.
That's genius. Yeah. You're going to be one of the first ones that are just wearing an Apple Vision Pro walking around.
Yeah, I won't be doing that. It's enough that everyone's always staring at their phones and stuff. Now to put on those goggles and even remove us even more.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Yeah, we're in for it. But, as long as people continue to listen to podcasts, whether it's on your Apple Vision Pro or sitting at home watching us on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Dwoskin, this was an hour and 16. This was way too long. Thanks for the time. But this was a blast, dude. I could talk to you forever. We dipped into a lot on this podcast, but no, appreciate what you do. Give everyone a quick shout out of where they can find your show and all that jazz. What you got going
on? My show, the easiest way to find it, it's called Classic Conversations. You can search it, but you can go to jeffisfunny.com. That's my show page. That's the easiest way to get there. Stampede.social if you want to take up your Instagram to another level. If you already got an Instagram that's rocking, this is like throwing kerosene on the fire, and it's going to rocket it for you. Nice. So lots of good stuff. So
cool.
Tony, it's always fun hanging out, man.
No, for sure, man. I need to hop on your live stream at some point.
Well, let me know. You're always like, I got a baby.
How long can you use that excuse for?
Right.
Dude, just 9 p.m. Eastern, bro. That's like, for me, I'm already irritated and ready to go to bed at that point. But we'll see.
I hear you.
We'll make it happen.
It's there whenever you want. You know, if you want to come on this Wednesday, we'll do it. You know?
It is the #1, I believe. It's still #1, right? Streaming live show
in over 30 countries. Yeah.
I love it.
In 30 countries that don't have a standard measurement system.
I love it. All right, Jeff. Thanks again, man. We'll talk soon, brother.
Thanks, bro.
All right, dude. Later.